Hey guys, anyone watching this and fishes in Florida, you'll know exactly what kind of fish this is. And for those who don't, this is a mangrove snapper and it's one of the most popular snapper in the Gulf of Mexico and on the Atlantic side too. The meat's firm, it has a mild flavor when eaten raw, and the quality is absolutely top notch and comparable to many other snappers around the world. Also, if you notice, I'm being really careful when cutting around the head because I don't want to cut into the stomach and release all that bacteria onto my knife. The last thing I want to do is contaminate the fillet with my knife or through the cutting board. And some people might ask, why mess with the head if you're not going to eat it? Well, there's several reasons. For me, it's easier to fillet with the head off. And second, it gives me a chance to inspect the fish for any parasites. A lot of people think that all fish have to be frozen before eating it raw. Well, that's not always true. Some fish like, salmon definitely should be frozen first. But for most saltwater fish, it all really depends on what kind of fish that is. For this kind of snapper, it's very rare to have that issue. And one way to check for sure is to inspect the stomach area. So for example, check areas like the air bladder, the stomach, the liver, and the fat. And if you don't see any problems there, then it shouldn't really be an issue. Here I'm just scoring the fish first, and then slowly I'm working my way inside, but at the same time I'm keeping the blade right on top of the bone. Also, I said many times before in my other videos that it's so important to bleed the fish if you're going to be making sushi out of it. If not, you're going to have a bloody mess, and the meat won't taste as good. When cutting for sushi, you want to be very gentle with the meat. Don't put too much pressure or bend it too much, or else the meat will crack, and that's going to be a real challenge when cutting for sushi later on. Also, make sure to cut around the hump, that way you get all the meat. And here I'm cutting along the rib bones, staying right on top of it. You can cut through it and just cut out the bones later, but that's just one extra step. So you can tell this fish has been scaled already. This is totally up to you. Scaling fish for sushi is pretty standard in Japan, and that's because most of them serve it with the skin on. And the skin is normally flash cooked with hot water or it's torched. For me, having it scaled is less messy when I'm filleting it because the scales won't be over the cutting board in my hand. And also it's less likely the scales will get embedded in the meat as I'm cutting it. The last thing you want is to chew on a piece of scale. So you might be wondering why I'm filleting with the bone side up. This looks pretty unusual, right? Well, this is another way of filleting the second half of the fish. Some of you guys who have cleaned fish before, you know that the second side is sometimes harder to clean. This is a really good technique too if you're working with a much bigger fish than the one you see here. Say if you got a 20-pound snapper, for example. By filleting it this way, you won't constantly have to hold up the meat with one hand and risk cracking the meat as it bends on its own weight. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I mean, there's so many ways to fillet a fish, and this is just one of them. If you find a style you like, then stick to it and try to master it. It's the end result that really matters, right? I just wanted to show a clip from another video. This is the typical way of filleting the second side. Of course, it's much easier if you're working with a smaller fish like this yellowtail here. If you have a thin fillet knife like this, it's much easier to skin it with. Totally up to you. You're going to want to press the blade down and keep it flat as you work through the meat. and make sure to hold on to the skin with your other hand while you're doing this. Most fish are going to have pin bones in the center of the fillet, and it's going to run about halfway down. To remove them, just make 2 cuts on both sides of the bones. So here I'm just looking over the fillet and trimming off whatever I see. This right here is a little bit chewy, so I'm taking that off. And also try to cut off the red meat. This is a little fishy and kind of ruins the taste if there's too much on there. Here I'm cutting pieces for sashimi. Some people like them thin or thick. I think it depends on what kind of fish you're working with. For this kind of snapper, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch will give you the perfect texture. Any thicker than that, it'll be way too chewy. But for fish like tuna and salmon, you can go as thick as 1 inch. I forgot to mention that the fillet before, that was the top side of fillet. And when you're cutting for sushi pieces, I prefer the belly side because the meat isn't as thick and it's easier to work with. So every sushi chef has their own style of making sushi, but the key is to shape it as fast as you can because your hand will actually cook the meat if you hold it for too long. And as you shape it, try to remember each position and remember the count. That way each piece will come out exactly like the last, almost like a clone. And that's the secret of making good nigiri. Alright guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video and try this for yourself. Also, if you want to see part 2 of this video where I made a snapper sashimi dish with ponzu dressing and a poke salad dish, please check out the next video. As always, leave your comments and questions below and subscribe for more.